In this video, we're going to jump back into Illustrator for a quick second and prepare a pie chart for 3D animation in Cinema 4D.
Let's start by looking in the project panel. First thing you'll notice, we have two different compositions. The 01 3D pie chart already has a Cinema 4D layer that's properly sized at 1280 by 720 and it's 10 seconds long at 29.97 frames per second. If we open the pi_clean_AE comp, you'll notice this is made up of 3 Illustrator layers. And this pie chart was originally created using the chart and graph tool for the pie chart. And then basically I selected that layer and then ungrouped it and then put each piece on its own individual layer. So let's go ahead and look at this Illustrator file itself. I'll click on any one of these layers and press Command-E on the Mac or Control-E on Windows to edit the original. So we can see we have each individual piece on its own layer, and then in order to bring this into Cinema 4D, all you have to do is go up under File and choose Save As. Then navigate to where you'd like to save the file. It really doesn't matter if it's next to the project file or not, because all we're going to do is just merge this file into our Cinema 4D project. So in the Assets folder, I have a 03_AI folder, and in there, I've already created a file, which we can just save right over. It's called pi_chart_AE_C4D.ai. So like I said, we could just save right over top of the old file. And then when I click Save, it'll ask me if I want to replace, and I'll just say yes. Then we can specify a version. So when I click on the pull down, you want to specify at least version 8 in terms of its age. So when you click OK, it's going to give you one more warning and you'll click OK. And then let's press Command R or Control R on Windows to open the rulers. Notice 0 starts from the upper left point of our artboards. If you actually hover over towards this corner right here, if you click and drag and move that point to the center of your screen, now 0 is set up right in the middle of your pie chart, which is very helpful. So let's go up under File and just choose Save and go ahead and click OK. So now we're ready to merge this into our Cinema 4D layer. Let's go back to After Effects for a second and open the 01 3D pie chart comp. Here's my 0404 pie chart. Let's select that layer and press Command-E or Control-E on Windows to edit the original file. Notice the document is completely empty. So we'll start by going up under File and choosing Merge. Then navigate in your Assets folder in your 03AI folder to the pie chart_AE_C4D file. When you click Open, it's going to give you an Illustrator dialog box. Just leave the default settings and click OK. So as you can see, I have some splines that have been added to the scene, but I'll dolly out. And if I dolly way out, you can see it's added splines around both artboards. So I can open up the null and just select path 1 and press delete, select path 2 and press delete. Now if I select this null object, I can press S and it'll frame up the null quite nicely. But if you notice, my anchor point for this null isn't in the center of our object. So here, I'm going to switch views by clicking this button here and then switching to the front orthogonal view. Now I can go in my toolbar and select the Enable Axis Modification tool. And then here, now I can go ahead and move my axis so it's perfectly centered in the scene. And notice down here I see position. I'll just highlight that and say 0 and press Tab and 0. And then when I click Apply, now it's actually centered up perfectly. So we can disable the Enable Axis Modification feature there. And now we're actually ready to create some geometry. I'm going to switch views one more time, go back to my perspective view here, and I want to extrude this. So if we go to our green generator objects, we can click and hold and choose extrude. Now all we have to do is just drag the pie chart directly into the extrude object. select the extrude object and go to the object settings and make sure it's hierarchical. Now, this makes this appear as though it's a perfectly seamless disk. But if you go to the caps channel, you can change the start to a fillet cap and the end to a fillet cap. It's getting closer to looking respectable. Let's actually increase the number of steps. I'll say make 3 steps with a radius of 3 centimeters. And we'll do the same thing on the y-axis. Now that I have this nice edge here, what I want to do is scroll down in the caps section, and I want to choose Create Single Object. And now I'm starting to get some definition here. And we could say Constrain, and now we'll get the seams for each of the points. So if I render this scene, you can see it clearly looks like a pie chart, but it's just extruded once out of these 3 individual pieces. Now let's go ahead and actually make a material to apply to this. If I go to the Create menu, I could create a new material, and in the Material Manager over here in the Attributes panel, let's just change the color. I'll click on this color, and let's make a couple different primary colors here. I'll choose a bright red, and then if you hold down Control and click and drag on the material, you can then change the subsequent material. So I'll just click once on this new material. Let's change this color to some kind of primary blue. There we go. And I'll hold down Control and click and drag. And on this material, let's go ahead and change this to some kind of primary green. Now, if I go to apply this material up to the extrude object, it gets applied to absolutely everything. Now I want this to only be applied to each piece. If I drag it onto a path like so, it's not actually going to create any colors because this has no geometry. The geometry is being created by the extrude object. So this is what we're going to do. I'll click on that texture and delete it. So if I want 3 separate materials for this extruded shape, all I need to do is make 3 copies of this extrude. So here I'll click on the extrude and I'll hold down Control and click and drag, and that'll make 1 copy. And I can just go ahead and hold down Control and click and drag again down, and that'll make another copy. So all we have to do now is just delete the extra paths. And notice when I made the second copy, I accidentally made it the child of the other object. So I'll just drag it down and out. All right, so let's just delete paths 4 and 5 from this bottom one. I'll delete paths 3 and 4 from this next one. And then I can delete path 5 and 3 from this first one. And then we just drag the paths up directly underneath our extrude object, like so. That way we don't need any of these nulls. You can just click on one and delete, click on the other and delete, click on the other and delete. Okay, now I have 3 separate shapes with geometry. So if I just drag the green material to this bottom shape, the blue material to the medium shape, and the red material up to this top shape, now I have 3 completely separate shapes with completely separate materials, and it's ready for animation. All I have to do is save.